Let's be real. Every excuse you've ever made is a lie. A lie you tell yourself to stay comfortable, to avoid failure, to justify staying exactly where you are. You say you don't have time? That's a lie. You waste hours scrolling, binge watching, and overthinking. You say you're too tired? Another lie. You have the energy for what matters when you decide it matters. You say you're not ready? That's the biggest lie of all. Nobody is ever ready. They just start. Excuses are seductive. They make you feel safe. They keep you trapped in the same cycle, the same job you hate, the same bad habits, the same unfulfilled dreams. But here's the truth. The moment you stop believing your excuses, your life changes. Period. Success isn't about talent, luck, or motivation. It's about refusing to buy into the lies you tell yourself. Today, we're going to rip those excuses apart. We're going to expose them for what they really are, a barrier between you and the life you say you want. So, if you're ready to face the truth and actually do something about it, then let's go. Because your excuses, they're done. Every excuse you make is a carefully crafted lie designed to keep you in your comfort zone. You tell yourself you're too busy, but somehow there's always time to scroll through social media or binge watch a show. You say you don't have the energy, yet you find yourself staying up late for things that don't serve you. You convince yourself you're not capable, but deep down, you know that's not true. It's just easier to believe than to take action. Excuses aren't harmless. They're self-imposed limitations that rob you of progress. They make you feel safe, as if avoiding action somehow protects you from failure. But in reality, they only protect you from growth. Every time you give in to an excuse, you reinforce the belief that you can't change, that you're stuck, that you're not in control. It's a cycle that keeps you exactly where you are, convincing you that your circumstances dictate your life, when in truth, it's your mindset that does. The more you repeat these excuses, the more they become your reality, shaping the way you see yourself in the world around you. They disguise themselves as valid reasons, but when you break them down, they have no real substance. People love to say they don't have time, but the truth is, time isn't the issue. Priorities are. Everyone gets the same 24 hours in a day, yet some people build businesses, get in shape, or learn new skills, while others stay stuck, always claiming they're too busy. The difference isn't in how much time they have, it's in how they choose to use it. Time doesn't magically appear when life gets easier. If something matters enough, you find the time. If it doesn't, you find an excuse. Most of the time, the feeling of having no time comes from poor habits, distractions, and a lack of intentionality. Hours slip away mindlessly checking notifications, watching just one more episode, or overanalyzing decisions that don't even matter. Instead of scheduling priorities first, people squeeze them in, if at all, around everything else that demands attention. The reality is that time isn't lost, it's given away, piece by piece, to things that don't move you forward. It's easy to blame a busy schedule for not taking action, but the problem isn't the schedule, it's how it's structured. The most successful people don't have more hours, they just refuse to waste them. They don't wait for time to free up, they make it. People often say they're too tired to take action, as if energy is something that just appears when the conditions are perfect. But energy isn't just about how much sleep you get or how physically drained you feel. It's deeply tied to what you prioritize. The things that excite you, challenge you, and push you toward a purpose generate energy, while the things that drain you, bore you, or keep you stuck make you feel exhausted, even if you've done nothing all day. The issue isn't that you don't have energy, it's that you're spending it on things that don't fulfill you. Think about the times you've been completely engaged in something you love. Maybe it was a project you were passionate about, a conversation that lit you up, or an experience that made you feel fully alive. In those moments, you weren't concerned about being tired. You didn't have to force yourself to focus. Your energy levels didn't hold you back because your mind was locked in on something meaningful. On the flip side, think about how exhausting it is to do something you dread, whether it's sitting through a pointless meeting, working a job you hate, or procrastinating on something important. The mental resistance alone drains more energy than the task itself. The way you frame your tasks and responsibilities also plays a huge role in how much energy you feel. If you constantly tell yourself something is exhausting or overwhelming, your brain follows that cue. You're already setting yourself up to feel drained before you even begin. But when you approach something with a mindset of excitement, possibility, or curiosity, your energy shifts. The work doesn't necessarily change, but your ability to engage with it does. That's why some people seem to have endless energy. They're not superhuman. They're just focused on things that fuel them rather than deplete them. Another reason people feel tired all the time is because they don't make space for things that actually recharge them. It's not just about rest, it's about recovery. Scrolling on your phone for hours isn't recovery. Neither is numbing out in front of the TV while ignoring everything that actually needs your attention. True recovery comes from things that restore your mental and physical energy, movement, meaningful conversations, time spent learning, or even just moments of stillness where your mind isn't constantly being pulled in 100 directions. Energy is also tied to momentum. The hardest part of any task is getting started. Once you push past the resistance and begin taking action, energy builds. This is why people who exercise regularly actually feel more energetic, not less. It's why someone working toward a goal, no matter how busy they are, seems to have more drive than someone waiting for motivation to show up. Movement creates momentum, and momentum generates energy. The more you act on what matters, the more energy you have to keep going. Most people don't realize that their exhaustion isn't coming from the work itself, but from avoiding the work. The mental stress of procrastination, guilt, and knowing you're not doing what you should be doing takes a heavier toll than simply getting started. When you keep putting things off, it lingers in your mind, constantly pulling at your attention, creating anxiety, and making you feel even more drained. Once you finally take action, the weight lifts, and suddenly you feel energized, not because the work is easy, but because you're no longer fighting against yourself. If you wait until you feel energized to do something, you'll be waiting forever. Energy isn't a prerequisite for action, it's a result of action. The moment you shift your focus from excuses to priorities, everything changes. People convince themselves that they need to be ready before they take action, as if some magical moment will arrive when everything feels perfect. They tell themselves they need more time, more knowledge, more confidence, or more resources before they can begin. But waiting to feel ready is just another way of avoiding discomfort. No one ever truly feels ready for big changes, and that's because growth always comes with uncertainty. The people who succeed don't wait for readiness. They start despite feeling unprepared. The idea of readiness is a comforting illusion. It tricks you into believing that once you gather enough information, once you feel more confident, once you eliminate all risk, then you'll finally be able to move forward. But that moment never comes. There will always be doubts, always be unknowns, always be reasons to wait a little longer. The problem isn't that you're not ready, it's that you're expecting to feel a level of certainty that doesn't exist. The only way to become ready is to start, make mistakes, and learn along the way. Every successful person has faced moments of doubt, but they took action anyway. Fear disguises itself as preparation. People tell themselves they're just being cautious, that they need to research more, plan more, or wait for the right circumstances. But in reality, they're just stalling. They believe if they prepare enough, they can eliminate failure, embarrassment, or discomfort. But real growth comes from stepping into situations where you don't have all the answers. You only gain confidence by doing the thing you're afraid of, not by thinking about it. endlessly. The more you hesitate, the more you reinforce the belief that you're not capable. Starting before you're ready forces you to develop skills, adapt, and prove to yourself that you can handle challenges as they come. If you wait until you feel completely sure of yourself, you'll miss countless opportunities. The people who seem the most confident weren't born that way. They built their confidence through action. They felt the same fear, the same hesitation, but they moved forward anyway. The only way to gain experience is by actually doing the thing, not by waiting until you feel prepared. Every major life decision comes with uncertainty. No one ever feels fully prepared for a new job, starting a business, speaking in front of a crowd, or making a big life change, but those who succeed understand that action comes first and confidence follows. They know that the fear of not being ready is just resistance trying to keep them in their comfort zone. The moment you stop waiting and start acting, you take control. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions and start proving to yourself that you can figure things out as you go. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Hesitation creates doubt, and doubt turns into inaction. You tell yourself you'll start next week, next month, next year, but deep down, you know that's not true. There will always be a reason to delay, always an excuse that feels valid in the moment. But every time you push something off, you reinforce the habit of waiting. The only way to break that cycle is to start, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when you don't have all the answers. Nobody feels ready, and that's why you have to start now. The only difference between the people who succeed and the ones who don't is that successful people act before they feel ready. They don't wait for perfect conditions, they create them. The fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, it's all part of the process. You don't eliminate it by waiting. You eliminate it by proving to yourself through action that you're capable of more than you think. Excuses create a cycle that keeps you stuck in the same place, repeating the same patterns and wondering why nothing ever changes. They act as invisible chains, holding you back from progress while making you believe that staying still is the safest option. The problem is that excuses don't feel like excuses in the moment. They feel like valid reasons. You tell yourself you don't have time, that you're too tired, that you're not ready, or that the situation isn't right. These thoughts seem logical, even responsible, but they are nothing more than a disguise for fear, doubt, and hesitation. When you constantly rely on excuses, you train your brain to look for reasons why something can't be done instead of focusing on how it can be done. This mindset turns into a habit, and before you know it, every challenge is met with an immediate justification for why it's impossible. You convince yourself that external factors are to blame, your schedule, your circumstances, your lack of resources, when in reality, the real issue is internal. The more you accept excuses, the more powerless you become over your own life. Instead of taking control, you allow circumstances to dictate your decisions. Excuses also create a false sense of comfort. They let you off the hook and make it easier to stay in your comfort zone. If you tell yourself that success is out of reach because of circumstances beyond your control, you don't have to take responsibility. You don't have to risk failure, face rejection, or push yourself into discomfort. But while excuses may offer temporary relief, they come with a long-term cost. Every excuse you make is another day, another month, another year wasted without progress. One of the most dangerous effects of excuses is that they reinforce self-doubt. Every time you make an excuse for why you can't do something, you're sending a message to your brain that you're not capable. Over time, this becomes a belief. You start to genuinely believe that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not lucky enough, or not strong enough to achieve what you want. This belief then influences your actions, or lack of action, keeping you stuck in the same place. Excuses don't just keep you from moving forward. They also make you feel worse about yourself. Deep down, you know when you're making excuses. You know when you're avoiding something you should be doing. This creates frustration, guilt, and regret. You see others making progress while you stay stuck. And that feeling of being left behind only adds to the mental weight. But instead of recognizing that the problem is the excuses, many people double down on them, convincing themselves that they're just unlucky or that success is only for others. Breaking free from the cycle of excuses requires brutal honesty. It means recognizing when you're justifying inaction and calling yourself out on it. It means shifting your focus from what you can't do to what you can do. It means realizing that nobody ever feels completely ready, that no situation is ever perfect, and that waiting for the right moment is the surest way to waste years of your life. Action is the only way out. The moment you stop making excuses and start taking responsibility, everything changes. Success isn't about luck, talent, or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about brutal honesty. The people who achieve their goals are the ones who stop lying to themselves, stop making excuses, and take full responsibility for where they are. They don't sugarcoat their situation. They don't blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck. They look at their actions, their habits, and their mindset with complete honesty and make the necessary changes. Most people don't do this because it's uncomfortable. It forces them to admit that they are the reason they're stuck, and that realization is hard to face. Brutal honesty means acknowledging the truth about why you haven't achieved what you say you want. If you're not in shape, it's not because you're too busy. It's because you haven't prioritized your health. If your business isn't growing, it's not because the market is tough. It's because you're not doing what's necessary to make it thrive. If you're not successful, it's not because of bad luck. It's because you haven't taken the actions required for success. These are tough truths to accept, but the moment you do, you gain control. When you stop blaming external factors and take full responsibility, you realize that you have the power to change. Most people prefer comfort over truth. They'd rather believe they're unlucky than admit they're not putting in enough effort. They'd rather convince themselves they need more time than admit they've been procrastinating. They tell themselves they're doing their best when deep down, they know they could be doing more. This self-deception feels good in the moment because it removes the pressure to change, but over time it becomes a prison. The longer you lie to yourself, the harder it is to break free from the patterns keeping you stuck. Success requires a willingness to face reality, no matter how uncomfortable it is. That means looking at your habits and asking yourself if they align with your goals. If you say you want to be successful, but spend hours every day on distractions, you're not being honest with yourself. If you claim you want financial freedom, but avoid learning about money and making smart decisions, you're not serious about it. If you say you want to change, but keep doing the same things, you're choosing comfort over growth. The people who win in life are the ones who stop lying to themselves about the effort they're actually putting in. Being brutally honest with yourself doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means recognizing where you are and taking responsibility for getting where you want to be. It means admitting when you've been lazy, distracted, or afraid, and then doing something about it. It means calling yourself out when you make excuses and refusing to accept them. It's not easy, but it's necessary. The truth might be harsh, but it's also freeing. The moment you stop lying to yourself, you stop waiting for things to change and start making them change. Excuses are the only thing standing between you and the life you want. They may seem small and harmless in the moment, but they add up over time, keeping you stuck in the same cycle of inaction and regret. The only way to break free and create real change is to destroy your excuses completely. That means refusing to entertain the thoughts that tell you why something isn't possible and shifting your focus to finding ways to make it happen. It means recognizing that every excuse is a choice. A choice to stay the same or a choice to push forward. The moment you stop making excuses, your life begins to change. When you remove the option to blame circumstances, you force yourself to take action. Most people never reach their potential because they allow themselves an easy way out. They tell themselves they'll start tomorrow, that they don't have enough time, that they're too tired, or that they're not ready. But these are just stories they've created to justify inaction. The truth is, action is always available, no matter the situation. There is always something you can do to move forward. The difference between successful people and those who stay stuck is that successful people don't let excuses control their actions. Destroying your excuses means taking full responsibility for your choices. It's about understanding that nothing will change unless you change. It's easy to blame external factors, but every excuse you make shifts power away from you. The more you blame time, money, circumstances, or other people, the more you convince yourself that you have no control. But when you stop making excuses, you reclaim your power. You realize that even in the most difficult situations, you have the ability to take action, make progress, and change your situation. Most people wait for motivation before they take action, but that's another excuse. Motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create by taking action. The more you do, the more momentum you build, and the easier it becomes to keep going. But if you sit around waiting to feel ready or inspired, you'll never start. The hardest part is taking the first step. Once you do, the excuses lose their power, and action becomes your default response. The more you destroy your excuses, the more unstoppable you become. Your life is a direct reflection of the choices you make every day. Every time you let an excuse win, you reinforce the habit of avoiding action. But every time you push past an excuse and take action anyway, you build the habit of discipline, resilience, and self-trust. You start to prove to yourself that you don't need perfect conditions to move forward. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You start acting in alignment with the person you want to become, and that's when real transformation happens. Excuses are nothing but lies we tell ourselves to justify inaction. They feel real, but they are simply barriers we create to avoid discomfort, fear, and responsibility. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time, and you will never feel completely ready. Success doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who take action despite uncertainty. Every excuse you destroy brings you one step closer to the life you want. The only thing standing between you and your goals is the decision to stop making excuses. Take responsibility, be brutally honest with yourself, and refuse to let fear control your actions. You are capable of more than you think, but you will never realize that if you keep holding yourself back. The moment you stop making excuses and start taking action is the moment your life changes. It's not about waiting, it's about doing.